Hi and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus and today I will walk you through some actual rounds of Res Publica 2020-30 Anno Domini, a game by Rainer Knizia, which is about to start on Kickstarter, and this campaign is run by the Mage Company. I guess most of you should know the name Rainer Knizia, and some of you might also know the title of this game, Res Publica, as this is definitely not an entirely new game, it's rather a new version. I believe this is at least the fourth version of this game. There might be some more, but the last one was being published by Queen Games as far as I know. But I've seen 4 different card layouts, and this being the 4th, of course. All the other versions were really tied to the same theme, so like a ancient medieval kind of style, wherein in this one, Mage Company transferred the whole design into a more space-themed version of the original game. And here you don't deal with the Vikings, the Anglo-Saxons or the Huns. In this game you are dealing with Galaesh, the Onopians or the Aturians or the Terrans. But there are various other civilizations in the people deck. As in the original game, there's also some kind of a technology deck, and here you're looking at components or technologies like the mining, the warfare or the implants, and I think there are at least 3 or 4 additional technologies in the so-called technology deck. And then there are the cards that actually score you some points or give you some special advantages, and some of those are definitely new in this version of the game, like the university here or the new resort, which is something I hopefully can show you when I walk you through the game. But really the majority of points you achieve through colonizing those cities here by trading in technology cards, but again I will explain that to you in a second. Then there are the space stations to gain you also some victory points, but also give you the opportunity to draw technology cards in the first place. Then this is basically pretty simple, it's just worth 7 victory points, but there are only 3 of those in the game, and again those are additional special abilities, which are cards which you can also trade in for some of your technologies, like this one. I think this is the research one, or you can gain the new resort here by trading in technology and people cards. One thing that's also new in this version of Res Publica is the planet Nark-Adul, which consists of 4 missions, let's put it that way, and the poor cutting is really my fault here. So and I hope it's pretty clear you're looking at prototype components here anyway. Some information are also not entirely correct on this card. For example, this mission here is not entirely correct, and also the points that are reflected on this one are also not correct. At least this is what I assume by reading the most current version of the rules. But what do I want to tell you by that? This is basically a planet which you can achieve 4 missions, and if you complete a mission you will be allowed to gain that tile basically, so you can flip it around and you know you have done it, and then it's worth the amount of victory points that printed here in red. And again, this one is wrong, this is only worth 3 victory points. Today I'm not alone, I'm playing with Jack here, and on the other side of the table we have our friend from the Dagobah system, and together we want to walk you through some actual rounds of the gameplay here, because really describing this game is pretty tough, to be honest. You really have to see it in action, and then it's pretty straightforward. It's really, let's say, a very deep game in respect to table talk and what you do. The rule mechanics are pretty simple. You trade card for that, and you show some cards in order to trade in a city card, for example, and then that's basically your turn, and this goes around until either the stack of technology cards is depleted or one player has completed all the missions of this planet here. And I think I have not mentioned this. Yes, every player has its own 4 pieces of Nark-Adul. The game is already set up, more or less, and each player now starts the game by drawing 4 of those people cards face down. This is definitely hidden information and it's really important. So this is really more or less the last step of the setup, and then you're actually already good to go. This is our starting hand, and I already made a small mistake. Those are not people cards, those are race cards, of course. Again, we are not playing the classic version of Res Publica with hunts and stuff. We are dealing with those Arturians here who are kind of like Area 51 guys. A turn of Res Publica 2020-30, and as of now, I will only call it Res Publica. Please bear with me. You can do basically 3 things. First thing, you can trade and swap cards with one of your opponents, and that's important. You only trade with only one opponent in a row. You don't have to trade, but if you trade, you can do that only once with one opponent. Then you can use card effects, and card effects could be this new resort here if you happen to have claimed it the round before, or using a trooper card like this one here, which would let you block a card of another player, but then this card will be discarded, and if you decide to keep this card until the end of the game, it's worth 1 victory point. So in some case, at least during my test, it really showed sometimes it's better to just keep this card in your hand. After you have potentially used your card effects, it would be time to display a card, and then you would be allowed to score or gain a scorecard like a city or a location, or you would be able to fulfill a mission like this one here, for example. At its heart, Res Publica is a set building game. So in order to gain one of those city cards, you have to show 5 technology cards that are all the same. So you could display, for example, 5 times the mining, and then would you be able during your display cards phase to claim one of those city cards. It's pretty similar to the space stations here. In this case, you show 5 races which are all the same, for example 5 times the Terrans, and then you might be able to discard those cards to your own personal discard pile, and then you can claim this space station here, which is worth 3 victory points by the end of the game, and is also giving you 1 technology card each round. These 2 resorts here are a bit different because for once there was 7 victory points, so both of them, and they can only be traded in for 3 of those Arturians. The iconography on those cards is definitely not final because the icons for the Arturians are basically this one, this eye here, but again, keep in mind, these are prototype components, and I'm pretty sure this is something that Mage Company will repair when they finally ship this game. You also have to be aware that the Arturians are pretty sparse in this stack. So you only have 6 of those Arturians in the overall race stack, whereas all the other races come with 12 cards each, which is also why there are only 2 resort cards out there, because when you normally use a card, it's no longer in play. There is 1 card which makes you, let's say, regain a card from another player's discard pile, but normally those cards are all 1 use only. And as you can imagine, having a Arturians card at the start of the game is already a pretty powerful thing. So this is definitely something worth keeping in mind. I also saw that I have already 2 Terrans on my hand at the starting hand. This is already something that's pretty good because it gives me a good starting point. So I would not go for the Skythus here, for example, because right now I'm more interested in the Terrans as I already have 2 of them, and if I have to gain 3 more of them, I would be able to gain a space station, which is absolutely important pretty early in the game, because this is basically the main idea to get you technology cards in the first place. Later on you can trade technologies with races, that's basically the decision of your trading partner, but really to get some cards into, let's say, the overall round, it's really important that all the players play those or build those space stations. Okay, that was a pretty long explanation for a very simple mechanic actually. So now I would start my trade phase, and as I want to have a some more Terrans, I would now be able to start my offer or my request. I have to decide either way. So for example, I could say I want 1 Terran card. I cannot say I want a Terran for this Skythus here, for example. I can only say I want a Terran card, or which I could also say is I could say, because I don't need the Skythus card here, I could say I offer 1 Skythus card, and then the other players would be able to respond. But right now I'm pretty sure I want to have some Terrans, so let me ask you in the round, I want 1 Terran card. And then I ask my neighbor to the left, in this case this would be Jack. And Jack would check his stack, I did that for him, and he says yes for 1 Onopian card. That's the only thing that he can say. I don't have to decide right now. I would now pass the torch to Master Yoda here, and he says, no, I cannot help you. I don't want to help you. I think table talk is really something that you have to arrange beforehand, or have to agree beforehand before you start the game. But in this case, he says, no, I don't have a Terran card on my hand. So now I know that this guy definitely has 1 Terran card, because you can only offer what you actually have on your hand. Unfortunately, he requested an Onopian card, and I don't have an Onopian card, so I can only kindly say, sorry, we cannot make a deal. And this already ends my trade phase, basically. Now it would come to use card effects. I cannot use any card effect at this point in time. Now I could display some cards, but with this hand there's basically not much I can do. And so the last thing I would have to do in my turn is to draw another race card, which goes right into my hand. And this time I'm really lucky, as this is a pilot. A pilot is worth 1 victory point by the end of the game, but it's also a wild card for any race that is not an Arturian, so this is not allowed. But for all the other races, I could replace this pilot here. So basically you could say I already have 3 Terrans on my hand. This is definitely a very good start. Now it's the turn of Jack. Jack also has to start his turn with a trade phase, and he's now playing it a little bit differently the other way around. He knows for once I have just drawn a new card, and he also knows that I want some Terrans. So what he will do now, he will say I will offer 1 Terran card. Then he will ask Master Yoda here first, and Master Yoda says, no, I'm not interested, basically. So it's again back to me. I know he's offering 1 Terran card. Terran card is pretty amazing. I could now offer again in return this Skythris card, but I already know, I'm pretty sure that he might not be interested in doing so, but let me try that. I will say, okay, for 1 Skythris card, this would basically be my response. What I could also say, and give you some more examples, I could also tell him for 1 Skythris card or a Turian card. The problem with this one is, if he agrees, he does not know if I give him an Turian card or a Skythris card. Still, I have to have both of those cards on my hand, so I cannot deal with anything that I don't have. That's definitely not allowed. I could also say for 1 Skythris card and 1 Arturian card. Then it's pretty clear which I'm offering. But this is a pretty powerful trade, so I wouldn't do that. If he would have, for example, offered me 2 Terran card, which is exactly what I need to complete my first space station, then I would have really considered to do that. But right now, I think the Arturians is definitely too worthy for me, so I will keep it at this point in time. So I will say okay for 1 Skythris card. Then it's back to him. He will check now my offer. So Yoda didn't offer him anything. I offered him a Skythris card. He knows that I want the Terran card, so he says no, I don't want to trade with you. I'm not interested at the Skythris card at this point in time. So the deal was definitely not good enough for him. So he could now also use a card. He's not going to do that. He could now display a card. That's also not really possible. So he will just draw an additional race card.
Then it's Master Yoda's turn, and he starts his trade phase by requesting either a Gala-Ash card or the Macros card. Unfortunately, I have to pass as I don't have neither of those. And then we come to Jack Skeleton, and Jack says, yes, for one Ornopine, I would trade with you. So Master Yoda knows that Jack Skeleton will give him either a Damacros or a Gala-Ash card. And I think he says, yeah, why not? Let us trade. So here's the card from Master Yoda. Here's the card from Jack. They will just swap hands. And this will now help you to gain your decks. Again, Yoda could now display cards or use card effects, but right now he cannot do that, so he's just going to his card draw phase, and so he will draw another race card. As Master Yoda just completed his first trade, his active trade, so I think he started that trade, hopefully I'm not wrong, he would now gain his first trade token, and again this is something I had to do on my own. I think the final game was shipped with actual trade tokens, and whenever you have initiated 3 successful trades in the game, you would be able to fulfill that mission on the planet here, which would then be worth 3 victory points. Keep in mind, this is printed incorrectly on that mission card here. Let's fast forward 2 or 3 more rounds. So this is now my new hand. So I have now 3 Terrans, I have my pilot, which is still a wild card, and I have this Ornopine, which I'm pretty sure Jack might be interested in. So I would start my round now to say, okay, I will offer 1 Ornopine. Jack knows I want Terrans, and I know he wants Ornopines. So he says, yeah, why not? I give you 1 Terran for that Ornopine. And Master Yoda is not really interested in that trade, so it's coming back to me. I can now decide if I want to take the trade, and yes, this is definitely what I want to do. So I say, yes, that's a fair trade, let's do that. So I will give him my Ornopine, of course, face down, and I will get this card in return, which would be the 5th Terran card I was able to get. Okay, it's the 4th Terran card, but with that pilot here, I would definitely be able to claim that space station over here. So I would now be able to use a card effect. I'm not going to do that. I will go into the next phase, which says display cards. And this is what I will do. I will keep those cards in my hand, and I will display those 5 cards here, which will give me a space station in return. Those location cards or city cards are always face up in front of me, so all the other players will be able to see them. Those cards will just be discarded into my own private discard pile. Each player has its own discard pile, and that's really only important for that new colony card here. I'm not sure if this is actually the final artwork, to be honest. Again, you're looking at prototype components, but this new colony would allow me, if I would have it, to gain a card from another player's discard pile. It's not that easy. I have to discard 2 cards basically in order to get 1 card back, but the good thing is I would be able to search through any discard pile of the other players. As I also completed a trade or initiated a successful trade, I would also be allowed to gain 1 trade token. I believe I already mentioned this, but this space station here gives me 3 victory points by the end of the game. That's definitely something, and it also grants me a technology card at the end of my round, which is basically now. So the first thing is I would be allowed to draw a race card. Funny enough, this time I drew myself some Ornopines again, and now I'm allowed to draw 1 technology card per space station I have played out in front of me. But there's an overall draw limit each round, which is 3, so you can never draw more than 3 cards. So if I would have, for example, 3 space stations, I would be allowed to draw either 3 technology cards, or I could say I will draw 2 technology cards and still 1 race card, but in total this must never exceed 3. At this point in time, that's pretty easy. I will just draw my first technology card, and here I have drawn teleport technology. I believe and I really hope that the final technology cards will also show the names of those cards, because otherwise the players really have to check the rules where the cards are nicely depicted, but this is really, let's say, slowing down the overall process. Of course, you could always ask, I want this little spiral thingy here, but it's much cooler if you ask, and more thematic if you ask, hey, any one of you got a teleport card? My turn is over, coming back to Jack Skellington, and Jack says, I will offer the Macross card. Yoda is interested, he's really shaking, you can see that, but he does not want to trade. So he says, yes, but no, I cannot offer you anything. And I'm also not really interested in the Macross card at this point in time, so I will also pass on this. Now the trade phase of Jack is over. Again, he could use his card effect, and now he would be able to display a card, and this is what he will do. He will show us a lot of his Ornopine cards, so basically 4 Ornopines and 1 pilot, which is enough to grab one of those space stations. And of course he will also play that in front of him. This goes to his personal discard pile, and that's basically his turn. So he will also draw a race card and also 1 technology card. Then it would be again Yoda's turn, and Yoda, maybe I can show you some of his cards, and he really wants to have another Gala-ish card, because this would also complete his set. So he has 4 of them. He has also 2 the Macross, which is why he was really hesitant, and he also have the Arturian cards, but he didn't want to trade the Arturians versus 1 the Macross card. If Jack would have offered 2 the Macross card, he would really consider it, because this is really pretty good return of invest, if you want to say that. But in this case, Yoda would now ask for a Galash or a Macross card, and then the others would also ask something for that. But I think he might have to get rid of either of those, so he might be really able to trade the Macross card for the Gala-ish card. And Jack Skeleton just drew one, as far as I can remember. No, this is Implant Technology card. Yeah, this is the Gala-ish card. So he would now consider giving the Yoda player one of his Gala-ish card. And this is really kind of the game. You really have to think, what should I give the other players? Do I want to block him? And this is really something you can actively do in this game. You can really block another player from moving on or progressing in this game. So you really have to be careful not demanding the wrong things too often. So if someone sees you're desperately looking for a Terran card like I did, this could really lead to other players, depends on how dick they play, to be honest, let's say what they will offer you in return, or maybe they will really starve you out, and then you can be out of the game pretty soon. But this is normally something should not really happen in a functioning gaming group. And as soon as the first technology card enters the play, basically the same happens. So you can now trade technologies with races or technology with technologies. That's basically up to you, or always your Arturian or even a pilot, whatever you have on your hand. And as soon as you have your first set of 5 identical technology cards that you will be able to display, like this warfare card here, you would then be able to claim yourself a city card. The first city card that you will be claiming is worth 9 victory points, and that's definitely a lot in this game. And as you can see, the amount of victory points will decrease the longer the game takes. I think this goes down to 4 points in total. Yeah, that's correct. So you really have to hurry in order to get the biggest piece of the pie, basically. And again, this trading goes on until either the technology pile is depleted, or one of the players has completed all 4 missions on Narg Ardul, basically. So this would be 3 trades worth 3 victory points. This is something that's also different in the final rules. So this is if you have 2 cities, you would be able to gain or complete this mission. This says if you have 2 space stations, you gain this card. And this is just a trading when you show 5 different technologies, you would be able to complete this mission here. And if one player finished all of them, the game basically ends. Then you would sum up all your victory points. So for once, the victory points from your cities, locations, whatever you have on your hand, your space stations, then the mission cards, you will just add those as well. And on top of that, each pair of identical cards is also worth 1 additional victory points. And I think I already mentioned that those pilots or the space troopers or the troopers are also worth 1 victory point if you have not played them yet. I've showed you more or less everything, but the university, for example, this is something which you can trade in for 3 of those research card. I think this is the term for those, or cloning. No, cloning is the term. Then you would gain 1 of those university. The university is not worth any victory points, and I really don't have an idea what this icon has to mean, but the university, once in front of you, allows you to reduce the amount of technology cards you have to trade in for a city. So instead of paying 5 identical technologies, you would then only have to display 4 identical technologies in order to build 1 city. And I believe I already showed you the resort card here. This is something which you can build for 3 identical technologies and 3 identical races, but not Turians again. And then you would build it. It's also not worth any victory points, but can really help you to gain the last card you are desperately looking for in order to complete another set. How this would then work: you discard 1 of your cards into your private discard pile. I think this is here for my deck basically. Then you would have to give 1 card to any player. This player just takes this into his hand. So let's just consider we gave this to Jack Skellington, and then we would be able to search through the discard pile of any player. This does not have to be the player which I gave the card to, and then I would be able to gain that card. So for example, if I would need this Onopian card desperately, I would be allowed to gain this from Jack. One thing that I have to mention: those cards, I think I did that wrong, I showed that wrong. Those do not go to your private discard pile, they will just be removed from the game, so I will not be able to gain a wild card from one of those discard piles. Yeah, this was basically my walkthrough of Res Publica 2020-30 AD. I think it was not so short after all, but I still hope you got an idea how, let's say, the basic or core mechanics are still integrated into this new theme here. I hope I showed you some of the new components that this game ships with. Again, this is a well, let's say, established game. It's really something that's not brand new. It's Rainer Knizia after all, so normally this guy knows what he's doing. And if you're really looking, let's say, for another copy of Res Publica, or maybe your first copy of Res Publica, and you're really fan of a more space themed game, then this might be maybe something for you. Again, this game started on Kickstarter. You will find a link to the campaign in the description of this video, so and if you feel like checking it out, please do so and maybe back it yourself. Hope to see you soon in one of my next videos, and until then, bye bye.